We're back here at the On the Spot with the Meet the Candidates series. To my right here again, we're going to finish with Carlton Berkley, who was telling us about stop and frisk. Next to him, we have Jerome Rice. Carlton, finish it off, brother.
As I was saying, we don't ask people to get involved when they see the police talking with someone or arresting someone. We just want them to observe what the officer is doing, because just as well as they're out there to watch us, we have to watch them. I know for a fact during my 20 years in the police department, right, that every last single one of the cops out there are not bad cops. I know that 90% of them are good cops, all right? But there are some bad apples, right? And what those bad apples are capable of doing to you is unbelievable. We all know through the history, right, how many people have died in police custody from a simple arrest.
Well, what I'm going to say to you is about a week and a half ago, I was on the phone with a friend of mine. His cell phone was on speaker. Police stopped him. They was giving him and his cousin the business in the car, and he kept telling them, the cop was telling him that you can't talk on the cell phone. He said, but it's on speaker. I mean, the cop wanted to arrest him. And after a while, they went back and forth. He handled himself real clearly. They wasn't going to arrest him at first, but his cousin was side talking, and I kept telling his cousin, stop talking. Now, they could hear me on speaker. So now, when it was starting to get a little ugly, I said, find out what precinct they was from, and are they in uniform? He said, no, they're not in uniform. I said, what precinct? I believe he said 105. I said, okay. Don't worry about it. He said, hang up. They kept trying to get him to hang up the phone. At the end of it all, it closed out like this. I told him I was a detective and we'll be at the precinct tomorrow to meet with your commanding officer. The whole mood changed with these officers. The next thing you know was Buddy and Guy, don't be so hostile. So we all understand what you go through in the neighborhood and what you can go through. We all seen it all the time, that you can stand outside and watch certain plainclothes cars go from spot to spot, just stopping cars. And we know it's illegal. But we also got another problem in our community, which is we got a lot of crime out here. And we got a lot of young people that's scaring the older generation. So when you standing out there and your pants is hanging off your behind, and there's a bunch of y'all with hoodies on and everything else, that creates a problem. And we all know this here. So this is what we got 100 blacks in law enforcement to look out for. And I'm glad for it. I'm also glad there are police out there, so it's hard, but if it wasn't so many complaints and so many things happening, we wouldn't have that problem, and we wouldn't have to have the police in our community and in our business. But now, as a candidate, if we move past 100 blacks, and we might touch back on it, tell me, if I talk to you about the schools and we change the agenda from police problem to our school problem, this creating half of this issue, what do you have for me?
Well, first of all, I believe that with our schools in Harlem, we don't even have a high school in Harlem. And we need a high school. And we need our whole curriculum changed. Because, see, when I was coming up in Harlem, I didn't learn about Adam Clayton Powell and Medgar Evers, right? I learned about George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, right? But that's not my history. Our people need to be taught our history. And once we can more or less get them involved with that and let them know how great they are as a people, because I'm telling you, brother, our people are hurting. They think that we're just looked upon, when you speak to these young boys, we're looked upon, or they're looked upon as just criminals. The police don't respect them, and so forth, and nobody else. But what we have to do is we have to take these individuals, right, just like we take our own, and we got to, nurture them and let them know that, listen, education is the only way, right, that you're going to be able to survive. Nothing was really ever handed to us. We have to go out there and get ours, but education is the way.
Jerome, get up in here.
And in my district, the problem we're having in regards to education is charter schools. Now, in the areas of charter schools, I'm for charter schools. However,
explain what charter schools are.
Okay, charter schools are where you have private. It's a private entity where teachers who have excelled in their areas of specialty are allowed to go into a specific school and bring the children's educational level up.
Okay.
Okay. So now, in my area, in the Bronx, District 12.
If we elaborate a little step further, charter schools is also there where, although it's city and state funded, but private companies are running them schools.
That's correct.
Okay, so we
That's
got
correct.
to let the people know. So
Right.
now, are you for charter schools?
I'm for charter schools, but I'm not for the selection process. I'm having a problem where you dump a school, you put a charter school inside a school that's already doing good, and then you tell the parents, "Oh, I'm going to make your child do well." If you want to impress the parents, then you put a charter school in a school that is failing. Mm-hmm. The other problem I'm having is the selection process. How could you put a charter school in a community and then tell the community, "Oh, by the way, your kids are not qualified to go to that school"?
Okay, well, we this charter school issue, and I got, hopefully if my producer can get it in here, tell me, I got a big thing here on charter schools, and
Okay.
we're looking into finding out the pros and cons for our community. But what we do know is you can put a charter school in a neighborhood. It's a private business. Basically, it's privately, although it's publicly funded, but a company is running this here, and the criteria can possibly change. And can you elaborate why?
Well, why the criteria can change? Well, first of all, how are you going to put people that don't have an educational background running a school? That goes back to the chancellor that we have right now and the mayor. They don't have any background on learning. However, we have a businessman running the school. That's not what schools were implemented for in the beginning. And let me tell you something. I came up through the public school system, and I like the way that I came up in it. And when I came up in it, my mother, along with the teachers, right, had a say so. Right now, we have nothing but mayoral control, which has to go.
Well, with charter schools, you know, your parents don't have any say so at all.
Well,
The teacher, not only the parents, but what's more important is the teachers don't have anything to say because there's no more unions.
That's
Charter
correct.
schools is also a way of doing away with unions. But go ahead, you finish.
But what I'm trying to say is, I'm not trying to say all charter schools are bad, right? I'm definitely not saying that. And whenever we can give our kids a bona fide education, they need to get it. However, all I'm saying is that when you take the parents out of schools, right, I got a problem with that. And Mayor Bloomberg hasn't been doing such a good job, because when he took over, it was like a 48, and I'm talking about us, for people of color. It was a 48% graduation rate. It has only gone now to 50 or 51%, which is 3%. So what major you know change has he brought to the city with his mayoral control?
The budget. Can you tell me about the school budget, and as a council member, and I'm gonna let you finish your saying, but also, can you tell me how the school budget, and as a council member, what will you do and where will you send money in your district to help out with your school situation?
Well, first and foremost, we must have transparency. When you deal with this budget, you must have transparency. Far too often that many of our elected officials say they're sending money here when the money is actually going somewhere else. So you got to have transparency where everybody can see where this money is going. The other thing you must have is a direction to send that money. And one of the areas is in my district, you need more after-school programs for our youth. Okay, and the other area is that our youth need to be prepared for the real world. What is the real world? Right now, we're having a problem with our economy.
We have about a $58 billion budget. How do we get youth centers open back up in a struggling economy? I mean, we lost all the after-school programs. 501c3 programs are being cut. How do you get that back in the community?
Okay, just before I go there, understand one thing. When you lose all these programs, crime goes up.
Exactly.
Crime goes up. So you must bring these programs back. Okay, now the way you're going to bring them back, you got to trim the fat. You got to go after all the millionaire tax. I always speak about that. I'm very supportive of that. The millionaire tax. These guys that's roaming our cities with all this money, you need to tax them.
The difference is